Women Making News Live, your network to a new career and life. Women Making News is a nonprofit working to lift up, empower, and fast-track women in their journey to a more rewarding career and life.
Welcome to Women Making News Live. I'm your host, Demmie Hicks, and our special guest today is VJ Niles, founder and chief strategist with the Niles Group. VJ, welcome to Women Making News Live.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me, Demmie.
Oh, absolutely. You know, VJ, I see you from time to time on LinkedIn, and you have really well done videos, but I can't help but noticing your background. And I want to know if it's real or not. There's this harbor, there are sailboats in the background, there are palm trees, the wind is blowing, you kind of move with the wind. Where are you?
I am currently sitting in Curacao, which is part of the Dutch Caribbean. If you don't know where Curacao is, I'm sure you've heard of Aruba. We are one of Aruba's sister islands. So I am in the Dutch Caribbean, living life as a digital nomad.
Okay, sweet. So how did you get there?
Well, I always wanted to live a life where I could work from anywhere in the world as long as I had Wi-Fi. And I said that before Wi-Fi really was everywhere. So once it became everywhere, I was like, well, it's time to go. And I basically made a plan and ended up here kind of like accidentally. This wasn't really a choice at first, but I came here for my 40th birthday a few years ago. And it was 2 months after my mom had passed away suddenly. And so I just came here to kind of, grieve and get my head together. And I kind of fell in love with the place.
So you took time for yourself, and it sounds like you've also fulfilled a dream.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. So VJ, tell us about the Niles Group. What does the Niles Group do, and why do you do it? And tell us about the Niles Group.
So the Niles Group is a company that helps professionals reach their ultimate career leap. And it could be getting promoted, getting to the C-suite, changing careers, or even starting a business. So I have varying interests, and the Niles Group is going to be where they all fall under. But one thing about my mission is to really help people live the life that they deserve and not the one that they settled for. I feel like we get so caught up in life just doing, right? And you do what you got to do. You make ends meet. You're doing this, you're doing that. But so many people are just not happy. And we think we can't be happy because of all of our responsibilities. But we can still handle our responsibilities and be happy. So I am a strategist and a coach. And basically the difference between the two is that a coach can help you get to your aha moment. And a strategist gets you from aha to voila. So you know what you want to do. And now here's how you execute and make it happen.
So voila, is that the satisfaction part and the happy part?
Yes. For some people, it's like knowing that what they want to do is even a possibility, and making it happen. I've had clients who are like, I want to start a business. I'm not really sure where to start, how to market myself, how to do this, how to do that. And then to get that call and the excitement of, oh my God, VJ, I got my first client. I set up my first consultation call. Like, it's happening. It's so just wonderful. Like, I love that experience. I've had 4 careers, and this is actually my 4th business. And just knowing what it's like to work every day and hate your job, right? I know what it's like to go to work at 9, and at 9:05, you're like, is it 5 o'clock yet?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be there. But I've also worked places that I really liked and enjoyed, but maybe one job I ended up getting downsized from because it was 2008 and, the economy.
Right.
So hit the recession, and then it's like, so now what? So always being able to kind of pivot through my interest was something that fascinated me. Everybody said, oh, but you should be an expert in one thing. But I said, being an expert in one thing will make me obsolete. And the people who told me that eventually went obsolete. Go figure.
Yeah. So let's go deeper on some of the things that you just said. One is that you said that you've had 4 different ventures, and that the Niles Group is your 4th venture, and that you had many interests. That leads into something that I hear you talk about a lot on social media and in writing, and that is and let's put it within the context of women reinventing themselves. So each time you've had a new role, would you say you've reinvented yourself? And tell us more about what you mean by reinventing a woman's desire or need to reinvent herself.
Well, from the women's standpoint, we get caught in terms of wherever we are in life, right? First, you're the single person, then you're part of a couple, then you're a wife, then you're a mother, then you're this. But sometimes you lose your identity within that, right? I mean, I remember watching my mom one day say, it was nice to just be Angelica again, not be VJ's mom, Andre's mom, Curtis's wife, but like to just be herself, you know? So when I change careers or my interests, they all kind of align with each other, but they're just a little bit different. So I had 4 careers where I started between insurance, IT, health, higher education, then HR, sorry. And I've worked in a bunch of industries doing different functions within that, but those are the main 4. And so like I was coming out of school, I went to school for IT, really couldn't find somebody that looked like me to be a mentor. So I was thinking about going to law school back then. So part of my journey was like, you know what, I'm gonna go work at a school. Maybe I can get into graduate school and move on from there, because my GPA had dropped because I was sick my sophomore year. And so I was working in higher education. I ended up in corporate America after that, in insurance. And I was 22 or 23. And I was like, I don't want to work for somebody else for the rest of my life. Right. I was like, I knew that, you know, but I was also the kid that sold candy in high school and always had money. I was always selling something, doing something, had an entrepreneurial venture going. I've sold life insurance at one point, but I've been writing resumes since I was 15. So then I started doing that. And at one point that was like just a side little thing I was doing. I used to have a candle business with my mom, and I sold scented gel wax candles, and she did floral arrangements, and we sold at craft fairs. Then I had what business am I missing? Okay, career incubator. So for career incubator, was doing more of like diversity recruiting, DEI work. I owned a summer camp at one point too. So I've had a lot of different things. Oh, and I used to have a printing business back in the day. That was kind of right before the candle business. So I've always been doing something as well as having a job. But sometimes it wasn't just I had to reinvent myself. It was just what made me happy. And that's kind of where the reinvention part would come in. If I'm not happy, what's the point? And as a woman, instead of keeping myself miserable to make other people happy, I realized I had to stop doing that. I couldn't help anybody else if I was miserable. So I would change careers. I would change businesses. You know, if things weren't working out in my business, I wasn't going to keep doing it just to like prove a point. I had to figure out when was my stopping point.
Yeah. So VJ, if I'm a woman out in our audience today, and I lost my role, my position because of COVID or for any other reason, and let's say I have 4 children, what's your advice to me in terms of getting on a track to find a role that works for me and that does what you say too, that makes me happy, but that allows me to be a mother and a spouse and to have a family? What's your advice to me?
Well, you still got to figure out what you want to do. What makes you happy? For the most part, when people want to change, they start going, well, what skills do I have? Well, it's probably an easy transition to go into this or that because I have these skills. But is that something you actually want to do? Or are you setting yourself up to just move into some other career or path that you hate? So it doesn't matter if you're a mom of 2, 3, 4 kids or no kids. What will make you happy? What are you passionate about? And there are so many ways to make money nowadays that you can turn your passion into a career. It's not like before where you're like, you know what, I like art and I want to be an art history major, and people would look at you like you were crazy because the only job you could do would be like, you know, curator at a museum. Now there's so many more options for you. It's just knowing that you need to do the research for it. Don't limit yourself to thinking of the past of, well, I know there's only like this job or that job. If you're over 40, the amount of things that are now career options that weren't there for us is huge. It's huge. It
Give
just
us an
keeps
example
growing.
of a couple of what are a couple of those things that are now open to us?
I mean, think about it. People are like creating video games now, right? Like who knew you could have a job playing video games all day, right? But video game designers make tons of money. You can do app development. You can do different types of fashion stuff. You can do different dance things. With the internet, you can take any creative outlet you have and turn it into a business. You can
Right.
see what companies are already doing what you love and see how you can get a job doing it too.
One thing that is really that you're highlighting over and over, and that is one, your happiness, that's paramount to you, is that you're happy, but that that anybody has the opportunity to be happy, that they have to start there. It's important for them to understand their passion. So can you give us a tip or two on beginning to do some self-exploration to find that passion?
Sure. I like to find a quiet place and sit down, right? If it's like, I like the water. So sometimes if it's just going to the beach, sitting by a pool, putting your feet in some water, taking a bath, whatever it is, really stop and think about what excites you, right? Some people had always had a dream. Like when I was a kid, I used to dream about being this. Some people have never had a dream. If you've never had a dream, I encourage you to dream now. Don't think it's not possible. Anything is possible, but it starts with you believing that it is possible. So when you sit in that quiet environment, think, you know what really excites me? What am I passionate about? What gets my gears moving? Besides just your family, because that's always a thing that everybody's passionate about, right? People love their people. But what else? What else is something that you love that's independent of the people around you? What are things that just make you go, ooh, I'm so excited for that? It could be something small. It doesn't have to be big. Sometimes people think like, if I make a change, a transition, it's got to be some life altering, earth shattering thing. No, it doesn't. It's like an impact. You can impact one person. It's still an impact. So if it's something small, if it's just, you know what, I always love books. Maybe I want to go be a librarian. That's enough. That's great. You're going to impact lives as a librarian, right? If it's, I always love to crochet. Well, you can start crochet circles. People would love to have some activity to do, right? There's just so many little things that can make you happy, but you just have to stop and think about it. What actually makes you happy? Sometimes it's been so long since somebody asked you, are you happy? And what makes you happy that you don't even know anymore. So you have to really just sit down and think, listen to the universe for a little bit and be like, you know what? In the 4th grade, I was always excited by this. Did that still excite me in the 9th grade? Did that still excite me into college? You can always look back at your old passions that you might have let go of. Is there anything that you still want that's still doable? Like I used to want to own a bookstore. Bookstores aren't as popular as they once were. That's okay. So maybe instead of owning a bookstore, I just end up writing some books. You know, I just shifted the idea, but I still have that idea.
Yeah, VJ, thank you for that. That was helpful. And you're a mindset person. I just, you are a mindset person that's going to put your mindset on passion, on what you appreciate, on what you enjoy doing. And that's what I hear you telling our audience is, one, to listen. I really appreciated what you said is, listen to yourself, listen to the universe. What is, what is that higher source? If you believe in a higher source, guiding you to do or sharing with you that you loved. Really appreciated what you said about go back to the 4th grade. What did you enjoy? You know, when I was a very young child, my mother said, well, what are you going to do when you grow up, Demmie? I might have been 12, and what are you going to do when you grow up, Demmie? And I said, well, I'm either going to be a teacher or I'm going to be a broadcaster. And never did I think I'd find myself in the role of being a host, but here I am. So that gives credence to what you're saying, VJ. But it seems like you were talking about, you mentioned the many transitions that you have been through, and you talk about those as if they're just kind of second nature. What's the one thing that you might suggest is a telltale sign that it's time to make a transition?
You're miserable. When your attitude starts to affect the people around you, that's how you know it's time to go. Your family always knows when you're happy, and they know when you're miserable. And the more you people please and you're miserable, it shows. And as women, we love to people please. Or my favorite is, you're caught up in perfection. Let that nonsense go. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no perfect family. There's no perfect job. There's no perfect lifestyle. It's a bunch of crap. You have to define happiness for yourself. Life is too short to be worrying about what society says we're supposed to have at this age, who says I'm supposed to be this at that age, or I'm supposed to do this, I have to look like that. Life is too short for all of that. We've been dealing with a pandemic. If you've been blessed to not lose somebody during this pandemic, you are extremely blessed. If you've lost people, you understand that life is so short. I've lost, I think it's 4 people to the pandemic, and I've had multiple deaths throughout the last 3 years. Have been so many deaths in my family. It's crazy. I've lost my mom. I've lost 2 of her sisters, her best friend. I lost a guy I was dating back in January. I've lost a great aunt. I lost a great uncle. I mean, just like back-to-back deaths. Life is too short. I cannot live my life by somebody else's standards. I can't live my life based on other people's judgment. Because guess what? At the end of the day, you wake up and go to bed to yourself. They're not there with you, right? Since people are always like, oh, but what will people say? Who cares? If you are not doing something illegal, you're not harming people, and you're happy and you're impacting somebody's life with what you're doing, who cares about these people? Who are these people? Why do you give them so much power over you? You have the power. Maintain your power. And this is something I had to do myself. I was trying to people please. I was running around listening to this one, listening to that one, and I made decisions based on other people. Those people are not here with me.
Yeah.
I don't get to hear from them anymore. They're not around. Even when I hit my lows, they couldn't be there for me, whether they had a good reason or not. The reality was they weren't there. It was just me. And I've learned how to always pick me up, be my biggest cheerleader. People look at my life and they're like, oh, you're so lucky. There's no luck involved. This is hard work. This is a lot of hard work. This was definitely a lot of picking myself up, being my own rescue, being my own, savior, like having to do what I needed to do when nobody else could help me. Not for lack of want or lack of trying, but sometimes what you're trying to do, maybe nobody in your life is doing it. So you can't expect like your family and friends to support you to do something that they're not doing because they just don't understand.
So I want to make sure I'm clear about what I'm hearing. Yeah, and I'm going to push back a little bit here, although I know that's your way. You've had so many, and you shared them with me when we had our discussion several months ago. You've had so many challenges above and beyond COVID, as you just said, over the course of the last 2 years, VJ. But what message I just got from what you said was that you're it for you. So are you saying you're your only pillar of support? You're your only resource?
No. I don't mean I'm my only pillar of support, but I'm the one in charge of my happiness. That's not on other people. Okay. That part's on me. Okay. Sometimes support is great. Support is wonderful. We all need it. But sometimes it's not there. And that's just the reality, right? Yeah. If I'm down and out, I can't expect my single mom friends to stop what they're doing with their kids and come run and be here for me. Yeah. I don't expect that. Do they come to me when they can and how they show up? Of course. But sometimes people put these expectations on others, like where you have to show up the way I show up. That's not always possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not possible. I've
Yeah.
been the friend to literally get in my car and drive to the person in need because I could do that. Some people don't have that luxury,
Yeah.
right? Like if my best friend needed me and she was a single mom and she was like, I need help. I need to go do some things and I don't have a babysitter right now and my mom is sick and this, that, and the other. I'm going to get in my car and drive the hour to her to help her out.
Yeah.
When she lived an hour from me anyway, like that was something that I could do. I couldn't expect her to do the same because one, she didn't have a car. Two, she was a single mom. But would she get on the phone with me and talk to me for 3 hours? Of course. But I know at the end of the day, my happiness isn't about who shows up for me. It's how I show up for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm miserable, my family knows I'm miserable. I can't be the loving daughter, mom figure, auntie if I'm miserable. I can't. I've tried it. It doesn't work. People see
Yes.
through it.
Right. So people have a choice, is what I hear you saying, that people have a choice to take the path of staying unhappy, being unhappy, recognizing first that they are unhappy. And they also have the choice of saying, wait a minute, I can make a change and I can have a heart set, a mindset to bring in resources, to make changes in who I am, to have more of a life, whatever that life is, that, and you can only define it for yourself, but to have a life that is more, that brings you more satisfaction. That's what I hear you saying.
Yes. And sometimes it really starts with you just deciding. I know you might be like, but I got all of this going on. I got that. I don't even know where to begin. It starts with the decision. Once you make that decision, it's like the universe goes, ha, she's ready. And resources start coming to you. When I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave the US and move abroad. I had to finally say, yes, I'm ready. And I want to go within this time frame.
Right.
And then it came together. Right. People told me I wouldn't be able to come back here because of COVID. I said, okay. And I came back here October 16th of 2020 after leaving March 4th. And I was like, what do I have to do to get back into your country? Like, I made it happen. I had to quarantine. I said, well, if I go to Aruba, can I quarantine there and come over? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. I said, okay, perfect. 3 days before I was supposed to leave, Aruba had a spike in COVID cases and Curacao shut the border to Aruba. So I couldn't go then. That was in August. And I said, okay, now what? And I kept checking what was going on in the world, this, that, and the other. I ended up flying to London and quarantined in London for 2 weeks before flying here. I was like, because I was so determined to get back here. I was more afraid of being stuck in New York than not coming here. That was my fear. I feared that I was not going to be able to have what I wanted. That drove me more than, well, what about this and what about that? Like, that was my drive. Like, but once I make a decision for something, the resources come together. And trust me, I've been low. I've had to apply for public assistance and I had food stamps for 6 weeks because apparently I got a temp job that made too much money for me to keep my food stamps. And then the temp job ended like maybe a week after they cut my food stamps. Right. I realized like I couldn't get much help because I don't have any children. I'm not married. Like, I don't hit in the categories that would get me help faster. It's always like, you're out of luck. So I had to get creative about how to handle my needs if there was no help.
Right.
But I got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done. I'm no more trying to be an employee. I stopped being an employee in 2013. It's the last time I was W-2 employee for somebody.
Wow. Yeah.
After that, I've been a consultant. Actually, no, wait, that's not true. I was working part-time for a newspaper. They had me actually on their payroll. I forgot about them, but I was first a consultant before they put me on the payroll.
So VJ, what's your single greatest strength? And we're getting ready to come to a close here, but in listening to you and your thoughts and your insights, what's your single greatest strength?
Perseverance.
Okay.
I will always get back up. And it's something I think it's something I built as maybe a defense mechanism when I was younger. And I think it was like my first really big heartbreak. And I remember, I was dating this guy, we broke up, and I was in college, and I would go to class, I would come back to my room, and I would go to my fridge to get something to drink and end up on the floor in a pool of tears.
Yeah.
And then something inside of me said, enough. I will not let you be like this. And whenever I've been really, really down, the part of me that's always like, it's time to get up. And I get back up. I mean, like losing my mom passed away 3 years ago, 1 week after we buried her sister. Like I had just saw the woman, and I was trying to convince her to stay in New York for a week because she lived in Maryland before she left. I said, why don't you stay here? I'll drive you back home. She drove up with my brother, and she's like, no, I want to, ride with my grandkids. I said, okay. And a week later, she was gone. I talked to her, told her I was going out. I called her again, and I never heard from her ever again. So my world was flipped upside down.
Yeah. Given that, flipping your world upside down, VJ, what message do you want our audience to take away from their time with you today?
Know that you can say yes to yourself, that it's not selfish, that you can reinvent yourself, that you can be happy. You just have to decide you want to be happy. Once you make that decision, then you can figure out how to make it happen. But you have to decide. If you don't decide, nothing will change for you. You'll just be status quo.
Yeah. Well, VJ, what a pleasure being with you today. And I will tell you that from my seat, perseverance and resilience and happy, but also actualizing dreams is written all over you. And so thank you for sharing yourself and your time with Women Making News Live.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And do you have something for our audience?
Yes, I do. So I have 4 steps that I use to reinvent myself, to do my career pivots. And I'm going to share it with you guys. That is the link right there. It's a free resource. You can go and get it. It's 4 steps. I made it very simple of how to get started, but you got to say yes to yourself first.
All right. Thanks, VJ.
You're welcome.
Okay. Everything at Women Making News Live is made possible through our sponsors and our donors. Our scholarships are made possible. Everything is made possible. And I can't tell you their generosity. So I'd like to introduce to you now the sponsor for this broadcast and for this month's Scholarship Award recipient, Oakbridge Insurance, Robbie Smith, CEO. And again, our sponsors and donors make our scholarship award recipients possible. This month's scholarship award is already a leader in her own right, but she has aims to go further. Thapa. Women Making News is a collaboration of coaches and organizations that provide the services that make our scholarships possible. Today, we are bringing in a new member to our collaboration, Suze Solari, the Style Lab. we are able to spotlight women who are going back out into the workplace, please take a moment to look at Rebecca Williams, her top 3 skills, and reach out to her on LinkedIn. Reach out to me to make access to Rebecca available. She is ready and able to get back into the workplace. Rebecca is sponsored by Ryan Watkins, the CEO of Marsh McLennan Agency. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next month, September 15th, when our special guest will be Shannon Alfonso, the President and CEO of MMA Florida. Thank you.